Okay, first and foremost, my name is Ikenna Odinaka. I'm the founder of After School Africa, and I have with me our program manager, is Chuku. Chuku is here with us, and some of you have spoken with us in the past. You might have spoken with Izu, so he's here with us. So you can say hi to
Hello, everyone. Glad to have you all from Rwanda, Ghana, and every part of the world. Thank you for joining us. I hope you have a good time.
So, After School Africa, it's we've been around for quite some time. Some of you already know about us, a lot of you, and we have been very particular about helping Africans access funding opportunities to study abroad, for funding of different career funding, business funding, but with a lot of focus on studying educational funding for international education. And a lot of people who are looking out for funding opportunities are more focused on scholarships. In this part of the world, people are more looking out for scholarship mostly when they are looking for funding opportunities or grants and fellowships, as the case may be. But the thing with scholarships is that as much as they are quite helpful avenues of getting funding for education, they are quite limited in the sense that a scholarship could have a limited number of people they could take, say 100 people. So even if you are qualified, the chance you're going to get a scholarship is quite limited. It could be limited, depending on the criteria, the eligibility requirements, the number of people who are going to be taken in for the scholarship, and a whole lot of other factors. And so when we got to know about MPOWER Financing, we were very excited to come into partnership with MPOWER. We are quite delighted to form that partnership in Africa to help Africans who are looking for funding, give them more pools of funding opportunities, avenues of getting funding for their education. And student loan is one of such avenues all over the world. In developed countries, student loan is a critical and a significant part of the education journey of students. And so it's something that Africans, a lot of Africans have been looking out for such opportunities, but we don't quite have a number of institutions that are offering such opportunities to Africans for a lot of reasons: issues with credit scores, issues with not having collateral, cosigners, and all of that. So we found MPOWER to be a bridge to that gap that Africans have been dealing with over the period of time. And we were able to get on with this to help people in Africa as possible to be able to access loans to study in US and Canada from master's programs, specifically for STEM programs, MBA, mostly in that field and discipline. So we have someone from MPOWER Financing directly. He is the head of Africa Business Development for MPOWER, and he's going to be speaking to us about what MPOWER stands for, the opportunities available in MPOWER, and he's going to answer most of the questions that we have. So we'll go through the presentation about MPOWER, then we will take question and answers, and then we'll conclude on that. So that's how we're going to run for the day. So I would like to invite Munya Chiura, who is the head of Africa Business Development for MPOWER Financing.
Thank you very much, Ikenna. Great. So thank you for all my fellow Africans. I think I see people from all different parts of the world. I am dialing in from Harare, Zimbabwe. And I was actually doing a little bit of research. I love our African continent. You might be interested to know that the population of Lagos is the same population as Zimbabwe as a country, right? So we live in a very, very different, interesting, exciting continent. And so it's exciting to see people from Ghana, from Malawi, from Nigeria, from all parts of Africa. There was a brief introduction. My name is Munya. I support our business development for MPOWER Financing. What I'd like to do is really spend a maximum of 10 minutes giving you an overview of MPOWER Financing. This webinar really is for our partners that we work with, including After School Africa, and then also for students or prospective students to really address any specific questions you have. Okay, so MPOWER Financing has been in business since 2014, and our whole mission is driven by the desire to provide international students access to great schools and universities in Canada and the US. And what we're excited about, and Ikenna basically referenced this in some of the introductory remarks, is that one of our missions is to ensure that we can provide promising students academic and financial aspirations that are borderless. And this is the premise of MPOWER and why we exist, is that we firmly believe that, and in our case, specifically African students, should have the ability to go to school and attend universities of their choice. And by doing so, financing should not be an hindrance. Again, there was some reference made to scholarships. That's fantastic, but we believe that there's a massive, massive opportunity for a return on investment, meaning students really looking for a product that allows them to attend university in a way that really allows them to continue to pursue both their financial and academic aspirations. So I covered this. I talked a little bit about the mission, and what we're excited about is we've been able to develop a very unique model that allows students to apply for an MPOWER loan without any collateral or without a cosigner. And this is quite significant. So for me, on an individual personal level, I can give you some history of myself, as I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. I went to the US for my tertiary education. And I can tell you that there is no university back then, if you didn't have a scholarship, that would allow you to really pay for your education without some sort of collateral. And even in markets in Africa, I think you know this, colleagues who are in markets like Nigeria, Ghana, is that for you to even get a personal loan of any significant value, you will probably have a requirement to put a down payment or some sort of security, right? And so this is the ecosystem that a lot of us, even as Africans, live in. And so this is critical for us as MPOWER, is that we've built an ecosystem such that students who are looking for a loan through us are not required to have any collateral, nor are we asking for your parents or guardians to co-sign on your behalf. And so, yeah, that's very, very important in terms of the value proposition we provide as MPOWER. We are a digital-only ecosystem. And so part of what we've also done is really thought through how can we make it easy for students, regardless of geography. So whether you're sitting in Ghana or Nigeria, we've also maximized the user journey experience, taking into account that people might be on their mobile app, is to go through that process of applying for an MPOWER loan. Now, part of the relationship we have with our partners, such as After School Africa, is that if you are interested in an MPOWER loan and you are, you fit that eligibility criteria, you can contact them directly and then start that application process. But yes, we've really spent a lot of time, technology, and investment on ensuring that we can make that application process the same, regardless of whether you're sitting in Malawi, Nigeria, the United States of America. And it's a fairly easy, straightforward process. So we are very laser focused on about 425 schools. Ikenna mentioned again that we are specifically focused on the US and Canada. We are very, very excited about the prospects of students who are looking at those markets. And just for some context, as MPOWER, is that we saw almost a 17x growth in our Africa applications last year, right? So this speaks again to the fact that we know for a fact that there are many students in Africa who do want to study in the US and Canada. So that is also why we're very, very focused on specific markets in the US and Canada. We do know that our African counterparts also are keen on other markets such as the UK and Australia. Look, we encourage students to also think about other markets they've probably traditionally not thought about, especially for their degree programs. I know when I went to school, most people were going to the UK and Australia, but now you find a lot more students are really keen on some of these other markets. In terms of what we actually offer, it is a fixed interest rate loan, which is payable over 10 years. We give up to $100,000 for the pursuance of your specifically master's degree program. There are no pre-penalties, so that is important because that means that if you decide to pay back the loan in the shorter period of time, we will not penalize you for that. We, in addition to the loan, do provide all of the documentation that you require to be able to get your visa. So we call this sort of visa support. And again, our partners also will be able to ensure that all your documents are in order for you to be able to apply for either an F1 visa or your student visa for Canada. So yeah, very, very important in terms of an additional support that we provide for our students. And I think it's also important that when we talk about borderless, I do want to preface that we want to give students the best ability for them to live their lives, right? And this may or may not be within their home market. So we do encourage people to look at a degree program that allows them to really continue to be successful in their life. And that may be that dream job in the US or Canada, or it may be a dream job back in your home market. So again, we do all we can to support our students so that they can really pursue this education. And this is sort of my last slide, because I do want to give students and participants an opportunity to ask questions. I wanted to put some context of the growth we are seeing as MPOWER as a business, but also overall across Nigeria and across some of the other markets, right? And I just sort of wanted to show the slide of the kind of growth we're seeing in students applying for university, primarily into markets like the US. I think it's no surprise that we as Africans are now the youngest population. And in fact, there's a statistic that says that by the year 2100, Africa will have the largest population globally, and we will need to create 22 million jobs annually to be able to meet that demand, right? And this is what we call the demographic dividend. We are a young population, so this should be no surprise that we as MPOWER continue to support and will continue to support African students who are looking to study abroad because of the growth we're seeing, not just in Nigeria, but some of our other markets. Yeah, so this is very important in terms of the core of MPOWER. When you look at where we are seeing the growth for our student loans, our student enrollment, it really comes down to STEM, right, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You will find that even in the US, that 54% of students who applied for university actually chose STEM subjects. I also happened to be in Ghana about 2.5 months ago, and it was fascinating to see this incredible billboard by the Ministry of Education that said STEM, 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 and that STEM will be the career growth for the 21st century. And I think this is a reflection of where we as MPOWER are seeing the kind of growth that we believe will be the future for a very long period of time. So again, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics will continue to be the fields where we see a lot of growth. And that's where MPOWER as an institution continues to support students who are looking to pursue their education in those fields. So I think we can stop here. I may be a little bit over my time. I do want to provide a lot more time for interaction, questions, but I think I'll conclude here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Munya, for that insightful presentation. I believe by now anyone who have listened would have gotten an understanding of what MPOWER is all about and what it stands for. So at this time, while we are taking the questions, okay, so someone is asking, please, what's the rate and its compounding or simple interest? So Munya, can you take that?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So the interest rate is 12.99% fixed over 10-year period. And I think it's important that we keep in mind that it's actually a benefit to students to have a fixed rate. You can plan accordingly, right? That interest rate won't change over a period of time. So yes, it's 12.99%. In the US and Canada, we also provide a little bit of a discount for you to then sign up for ACH and auto debit. So that way, every month, the funds are coming out of your bank account when you're in market. But yeah, 12.99% is sort of what you need to be thinking about.
That's clear. Another question, does it mean MPOWER doesn't give loans to students who are studying in the field of education?
Yeah, very, very good question. I think for us, we don't want to set up students for disappointment. And what I mean by that is that it's important to understand what your tuition or education costs are to study in the US and Canada. So when you keep that in mind, it's important to match what we believe we can support from an education loan perspective and the programs where we are able to maximize those loan amounts. So we don't discourage students from applying in the field of education, but I think you saw my slide that 54% of applications we found tend to be in those disciplines, mainly STEM. And the reason for that is that's also where the significant jobs are globally, right? When you look at science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So I think it's important to also keep in mind that part of what we look at from a loan perspective is also the fields where we're seeing the highest potential, because we look at what we call your future income. And the future income algorithms also take into account the kind of prospects or job prospects you have as an applicant in the future.
Yeah, there's also a pointer for you as a student, more like a counseling for you to understand where the opportunities are, because it's not just about going for a master's, but also about considering fields that have future potential in terms of earning possibility and career growth. So you may want to have that as a consideration as well when choosing a course to study abroad. Okay, someone else asked social science programs. I mean, the response to education answers that already. Okay, when does repayment of the loan start?
Yeah, a very good question. So our expectation for the student is to actually repay the loan while they're in school. So what happens is you'll be approved for the loan, and then you will get a statement that would give you your first start date. And the reason why that's also very important, and this is also where scholarships become different from loans. MPOWER realized that as an international student, it is very difficult for you to actually access credit when you are in your market, whether it's the US and Canada. So I can just give you a very good specific example for the US, right? So here you are, you do your master's degree, you graduate, right? And then now the bank that you might have used while you're in the US will come and send you a letter that says, by the way, we're going to close your bank account. That means that for the 24 months that you might have been in the university, all of those transactions that went through your bank account don't give you any sort of credit capabilities or any track record of the fact that you might have had transactions go through your bank account. So one of the key things we have done as MPOWER is that for every payment you make towards that loan while you're in school, so the expectations that you'd be paying interest only while you're in university, and then you pay your interest and principal once you've graduated, is that those payments go to build your credit score. And that's important because for a lot of students, there is no track record or history at all while you're in the US or Canada. And so this is also why we have built a program such that for you to actually recognize or be recognized for some of those payments you made through MPOWER, we will take those payments as part of building your credit score for those 24 months while you're in school.
Okay, great. Godwin and Daniel, you're asking if you can apply for any other school that is not supported by MPOWER. No. For you to get a loan from MPOWER, it has to be one of the schools approved by MPOWER. Okay, someone is asking, how long will it take for my loan decisions to be taken after submitting my admission letter?
Yes, that's a very good question. And I also like the fact that the person talked about admissions letter. So the most efficient process from an MPOWER loan perspective is to make sure that you are applying for a loan once you've been admitted to university. You can actually go to the website now. It'll tell you the schools we support. You can also work through our partner, Canada. They've got the list of schools. So ideally, what you want to do, first of all, is ensure that you're applying to a school that we support as MPOWER. And once you have your admissions letter, the typical process end-to-end can be 2 weeks. Now, I will preface, right, with the preface of the 2 weeks is that what we typically find is that the students who have all of their documentation in order, right, will move fairly quickly through the process. But a lot of times the bottlenecks are individual applicants not having all of the appropriate documentation in order. So everything from your passport, your transcripts, your CV, proof of residence, there's your several sort of standard KYC processes might not have all the documentation in order. And this is where our partner, After School Africa, plays a critical role, is that once you've applied and there's any missing documentation that we are looking for from an MPOWER perspective to move your loan along, then we would require that documentation. So yes, it typically is a 2-week process, but if all of your documentation is in order.
So Joachim is asking about uploading sponsor bank statements. He's asking, will I be penalized if I don't have any sponsor bank statements?
Yeah, so for us, I would recommend, I always say that upload as many documents as possible, right? If there's anything that we require in addition to the standard documentation list, right, we will ask you. So things like sponsor documents, there's no harm in doing that, right? Ultimately, I think it's important to also understand that we talk about providing credit decision making on a number of factors, right? We do look at your individual credit score in your home market, whether it's Nigeria, Ghana. So we also encourage students to also have a clean credit record, right, or credit report. But the significant part of what we are doing is looking at what we call your future income. So whatever you have as part of your supporting documentation, we encourage you to upload all those documentations that we require as standard. And if there's anything else you think that would help, please do so.
And Hezekiah has a question about repayment. Said the 10-year repayment period, must the student still be in the United States during the period, or you can repay anywhere? And the second question is, when one finishes his program, can MPOWER help the person get a job?
Yeah, sure. Let me touch on the repayment. So what we've done at MPOWER is we've got several partners we work with, so that if you do return to your home market or country, you still have the ability to repay that loan, right? And so we've got partners. For example, we work with the likes of Flywire and Flutterwave, so that you can indeed repay your loan back in the market that you may be in. The second point around, do we help students in terms of job prospects? There is something we call Path to Success. And Path to Success is a program where we will essentially provide as much career guidance and support for students post graduation. Yeah, so we do all we can to also prepare students for what life looks like after university.
I know someone is asking, Victor, can the US visa be approved when the applicant has just the MPOWER support letter as proof of fund? Yeah. So he's asking if it doesn't have any other source of funds, if MPOWER is the only source of fund, if that could serve for US visa.
Yes. So look, specifically for visas, what we will do as MPOWER is to provide a support letter. And so that support letter can be part of the overall documentation you require for your visa interview. I also would like to preface that as MPOWER, we don't have the magic wand in terms of the visa process. What we can do is to provide all of the documentation so that you're well equipped for your visa process. But yes, we will provide the supporting documentation that indicates that what the loan amount has been that we've approved, which you can then take with you to your respective visa interview processes, or submit that as part of your supporting documentation.
William wants to know if his MBA, which he already has, should be submitted to help determine his earning potential. I think that's yes. Submit as much document as you have, right?
Absolutely. And something important to think about, especially for those who are applying for MBAs, please make sure that you have a minimum of 3 years work experience, right? Especially for those who are applying for MBA programs, make sure you have that 3 years work experience, because that's also part of the criteria that's critical for us, and GMAT scores and any of your standardized test scores. Even for universities that may not require them, we might still, as MPOWER, request that information. That's part of our internal review process. But yes, as for those who are looking at MBA programs, please make sure you've got at least a minimum 3 years work experience.
Someone wants to know if MPOWER kind of diminishes the chances of getting visa, and saying he has been disapproved, rejected for presenting loan support letter. I mean, is there some experience you'd like to share on that, Munya?
Yeah, I think it's really important for all participants to understand that, as I mentioned before, MPOWER's role is to ensure that we have an applicant that comes to us who's looking for a loan from a school we support. We provide all of the appropriate documents and the approval letters for them to go to their visa interviews or to go and apply for visa. We don't have a magic wand, right, around the approval process that embassies go through to ensure whether a student finally either approves or gets a denial on the visa. That's a process we cannot read into. Having said that, I think it's important, going back to what our job is to make sure that the student has all of the adequate information for them to then go ahead and apply for the visa. Statistically speaking, there is no data that I've seen that would suggest that a student that goes for a loan gets disproportionately approved or denied more than any other student that goes for any other type of visa. We simply don't have any data that would suggest that that's the case.
Okay. Hezekiah again is asking, after using the school to apply for the loan during study period, maybe after first year, can the loan be used for another school if I switch to another school?
Okay, so if I hear the question correctly, the student's already enrolled in one school and they want to apply for an MPOWER loan to go to another school.
I think what he's asking is he already got an MPOWER loan for a particular school and he's switching to another school. So will the loan be transferred to another school? That is, if the other school is also a partner of MPOWER.
I think that will be, you would have to take that on an individual basis, because I think it's also important to understand that the dynamics of the loan, right? And that's why we talk about the acceptance letter. So in my view, the fact that you've applied to Stanford University for master's, right, in data science, you've gotten, you started, and then you decide that now you want to, move to UCLA, right? The basis of the algorithm and the credit decision-making process was the fact that you were going to Stanford, and the amount of funds that you requested were for that specific school. So there's some dynamic aspects of the school that you applied to, the program you're applying to, that all go into the credit decision-making process. So in that case, it would be recommended that the student actually apply for a new loan altogether. That would be my recommendation under the premises of the new school, and if they've got the acceptance letter and so forth, that they would do it under those conditions. So
Oscar would like to know, how long typically does it take to secure an MPOWER loan from assuming that the students submits every required document? How long does it take to, on the average, to get a loan approval?
Sure. I think I answered this question, but I'll say this again: is that it typically is a 2-week process. Now, the caveat again and the disclaimer there is that assuming that all of your documents are in order, right? Typically we find that there's some form of documentation that is missing that then elongates the process. I'll just give you one example, is making sure that you've uploaded your passport, right? Something as simple as that can actually delay a process, or proof of residence, right? Where someone might submit a documentation for proof of residence that is not accurate, or the application, there's inconsistencies in terms of the addresses that you used on your application and your school application. So that's normally where we find a few of those bottlenecks. But should the students have all of their documentation in order, it typically is about a 2-week process.
What I require document, I think you should, you will get access to that. We already sent that out, the document that you require to apply for MPOWER loan, but would also share that after this. Okay. I know someone is asking, is there hope getting support if MPOWER does not currently partner with a school where I've been admitted? I mean, it has to be one of the partner universities. Okay. Williams is asking, in which account is the loan disbursed to? I believe that's to the school, but Munya, you may want to shed more light on that.
Yes. So the way our process works, and that's also why we talked about the 2-week process. But when that 2-week process is over, there's also some extended internal sort of processes we need to follow, keeping in mind that the loan itself is dispersed directly to the university. So if I get into University of Maine, those funds are actually directly dispersed to University of Maine. So there's a whole tech ecosystem that's been built around the disbursement of funds direct to the university. And so yes, the repayment of the loan though would happen back to MPOWER, but the funds are then dispersed to the university. Essentially administers the fund disbursement either to your student account, And if you're on or off campus, they'll make those determination around the funds that need to be dispersed, especially for off-campus accommodation. But yeah, those funds will be dispersed to the university. And then once you've opened up your bank account in those respective markets, that's when you can then start to manage the repayments of those funds. And the disbursements of those funds will then be determined by the university.
Samuel wants to know, okay, Samuel is asking, is the loan taking care of the tuition fees only? It's not just for tuition fee, but then Munya, you can shed more light on that.
Yes. So typically the loan will cover your tuition, accommodation, books, and any other educational related expenses. So I think it's important that when you are applying, you will be asked to put together a cost estimate. So I think it's important to look at what those costs would be, which should be inclusive of your tuition, accommodation, or on campus, books, meals, and so forth. Yeah. So education related expenses should be what you should be submitting as part of your loan. Okay.
And can someone apply for a loan after having granted visa?
Yes, they can. I'm not sure how they would do that if they had shown proof of funds prior to them getting a loan. By all means, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't see too many of those cases, but absolutely. There's nothing that would stop that from happening.
I have quite a number of questions coming in, just trying to skim through the ones that have already been answered.
A lot of great questions.
Yeah, really, a whole lot.
Okay, I saw someone here. Do you consider emergency health management a STEM subject? I just saw that one. I think it's important to look at the 400 schools and see which programs are supported within which departments within, because they all differ, right? So sometimes public health might be considered a STEM subject, but I think it's critical to ensure that you look at what program or discipline or department that you are interested in, to ensure that, it follows the guidelines that we're looking for in terms of STEM.
Okay, Jennifer is, you said she got approved for a loan conditionally, but didn't get accepted for the school. So I believe she applied for the loan before a decision was made by the school. So what she's asking what she should do at this point.
Yeah, it's a conditional offer. So I think for Jennifer, I think she just needs to make sure she gets an acceptance letter from another school. And then at that point in time, then I would suggest she reapplies at that time. If I hear that correctly, she didn't get accepted into the school, but we still gave her a conditional offer.
Okay, so can MPOWER give a loan to students who are already in the States and who are already in the States? About how long that have been answered already?
Yeah. It has, but I think I'll just reiterate again that you need to be at least 2 years into your program in the US or Canada to be able to apply for an MPOWER loan. I will be honest, is that it's very rare. Most of the MPOWER loans happen to be originated by students who are coming from their home markets, looking to study for graduate school. But yes, that's still a possibility if you'd like to do that. But make sure that you're able to kind of show that you're through your second year, and you can apply from there. Yeah, I saw another interesting question. It says, is it unusual for my application status to say submission of documents even after I've submitted the required documents? Unless there's you've received an email that there's additional documentation that's required, that will be the only status that would be changed, right? So if we are awaiting any documents, then I think that status would remain.
So if your question hasn't been answered, you can type it again so we can see it, because as more people are typing in, we're kind of missing a lot of questions. Yeah, there's a whole lot of questions.
There are so many questions. Yeah, that's exciting. But yeah, so if I miss your question, it's not intentional. Again, I'm going to say that you can still go ahead and see if you're eligible, right? There's nothing that stops you. You can do this today, right? You can go out there. There's a link that was provided to you through the chat. You can go there and see if you're eligible. So it will tell you, am I qualified for a loan? How much? Please go ahead and do that. Do I need some money in the bank account to apply for a loan? I'm going to go ahead and say this again, is that you can still pre-qualify. Go ahead and see if you can get a conditional offer right out there. It is not an absolute requirement to have money in your bank account, right? But I think there may be a time where we'll ask for some additional documentation, to prove, additional support, especially in instances, for example, where we may not be able to provide the maximum value of the loan that you were hoping for. We might just ask for proof of additional funding. But yeah, no, that's important.
And someone is asking about credit reports, asking how he can get access to his credit reports.
Yes, so I believe there's a link. If you are to go through the application, when we're ready for that, it'll ask you to either upload your credit report, or there's a link where we can actually pull that. So yeah. Again, I think
why he's asking is how he can get access to that. In this part of the world, not a lot of people don't have like the way it is in developed societies, where credit score is something that is quite prevalent. But he's asking how can he go about it if he doesn't already have access to that?
Okay, do you know what country? I was also going to ask which country this individual is. I can't see all the names, so you have to excuse me. Who was asking about that? Okay.
This person is from Nigeria. From the name, is a Nigerian. Is a Nigerian, from I could tell.
Okay. So if you're from Nigeria, typically you should be able to pull your credit report. If not, we actually have a way to be able to access that information. So that's not your worry. But I will also say this, is that please keep in mind, your individual credit score in your home market is only a component of the overall algorithm that makes us make a determination of extending the loan to you, right? So it's not the only aspect of it. We holistically look at this. And this is also part of why we're excited, is that we understand the dynamics of the African marketplace, right? So it's not the be end all, right, in terms of decisions around whether we'll extend a loan to you as an individual applicant.
Okay, Olayinka is asking.
Okay. We have a lot of questions. I think we've got 2 more minutes left. So
just take 2 more questions.
Yeah,
Can we do 2 more questions?
I see this one. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I think his question is about paying the interest while still in school. So he's asking, since you are still in school, a student probably not working, where would you get the money to pay the loan, pay back the interest and the loan?
Yeah, good question. So let me maybe answer the question this way. At MPOWER, we find that our non-performing loan book, this is when I talk about non-performing loan book, that is students who do not have the ability to repay the loan, is extremely low. And this is because most of the students are, again, this is why we focus on graduate school, right? Graduate school students typically also find graduate teaching assistant roles. There are other ways they can supplement their income while they're in university, right? But I again want to preface that, generally speaking, our non-performing loan book is very, very low because most graduate students actually do find a way to generate an income. The second part is we also have made it such that we're only requesting the student to pay the interest only while they're in university, right? So while they're in school, they're only paying the interest only, and then they'll pay the interest and the principal once they've graduated. And the reason why we're doing that is to also relieve the financial aspects of the student while they're university, so they can also have a little bit of breathing room while they're enrolled and continue pursuing their education. Then once they graduate, then they'll be able to pay both the principal and the interest on that loan. Okay, we are right on the hour.
I think that our time is quite up. So I think any other question that you have, you can reach out to us After School Africa. Send an email to support@afterschoolafrica.com, or you can reach at us on our mobile number. We're going to put that up as well on the chat, so you can shout us up on WhatsApp for questions that haven't been answered already, and we'll get back to you on that. So it's been a great one. Really, really exciting to see the engagement and the interest that you guys have. Yeah, so we are recording. We're actually recording. So someone asked if we're going to have the recording. Yes, we would send out the recording before the week runs out. So you'll be able to go through them and just recall the responses so far. So I think at this point, you can go ahead. The link is on the chat. So please go click on it and try out the application and see if you're eligible. That's actually the first step. I mean, before all of this, click on the link, the bit.ly link, ASA loan, and go through the eligibility process. Just 10 seconds, you'll be able to be done with that. And then if you're eligible, then you can move on to the next stage.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Sorry, I was logged out. So thank you, guys. And Munya, thank you so much. Thank you for taking out the time. Thank you for the insightful responses. And thank you for making this as smooth as possible. All right. So, guys, at this point, I think we'd have to call it a day.